Hey, and how's it going on this Wednesday? It is April 8th on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, and come support us on Patreon. Today we're going to hear about coronavirus updates, plus Germany and how they can be a template for other countries to respond to the virus, and last, realizations through this pandemic time. So, how is everyone doing? It is already the middle of the week. I know that a lot of things have already happened, but good job for making it through, and we want to do it together here on the Morning Star Drive. Let's start off with the featured artist of the day. Now, the featured artist is JuStar from New Zealand, and the song we're going to hear is called Day by Day. Now, here's a story behind it. In December of 2015, she went to Korea, and during a Christmas event at the Lord's Church, she heard Pastor Joan singing the song, I Live Only for the Lord. Even though she couldn't understand all the Korean, she was just incredibly moved by the performance. And she too desperately wanted to confess to live for the Lord in the same way. So later on, there was a testimony time with El Jung. And basically, she was just in tears because she's so moved by the testimony. And then after the whole trip finished, she went back home, but she started getting sick on the plane, right, on the way back home. And for 3 days, she was just sick in bed. But one of those days, she just sat up in her bed, put her pillow underneath her, and she just sang the chorus for this song. Like, amazingly, the chorus for this song just came out. So this song is her confession to live for the Lord. And you're going to hear it in the lyrics that she says she wants to be empty. She wants herself just to be emptied so she can fulfill the Lord's will. So first we're going to hear Day by Day by JuStar, and the second song is by Sing Beats from Canada, and they're going to sing the song Lifetime.
I come here before you, Lord, with a willing heart. There's so much I want to do for you, no matter what. I want to be the bride who can say at the end of her life that even if others doubted along the way, I did not. Never once did I give up, never once did I stop, but I saw it through to the very end until I reached the top. Never once did I turn back, did my heart ever change, but my love for you, my Savior, Lord, has only grown day by day. I come here before you, Lord, with an empty heart. I'm fighting to make your word my own, no matter what. I want to be the bride who can say at the end of her life that even if others acted by their own thoughts, I did not. Never once did I give up, used to have time, but I lose more each day. Time comes just one time, whether used or wasted, it will flow away. Time always passes, mine will once my time passes, it won't come again. This is my time, and I've wasted so much time. It is this time, and it's great this time before it goes away. Life it passes, draws to an end. Once our time passes, it won't come again. I want to seize this time. I want to own this time. I want to gain it anew. Life is a finite thing. Life marches to its ending now. Spend my lifetime for you. I want to take this time. I want to use this time. I want to make something new. Life is a fragile thing. Life can't escape its ending now. Spend our time here with you. Time. This is our time, and we'll make something new.
And that was Lifetime from Sung Beats in Canada. And of course, that first song was from the featured artist of the day, and that was JuStar from New Zealand with Day by Day. Now let's get into the coronavirus updates. And there's a bunch of stuff that we're talking about each and every day, and I don't want to depress you, so I'm actually working on some more positive things. But let's first get into the update itself. At the moment, we're reaching a little bit over 1.36 million cases in the world and about 76,000 deaths. The U.S. is just climbing and climbing. They're around 370,000, so they should probably be crossing the 400,000 case line probably by tomorrow, and they have about 11,000 deaths. Spain, of course, took over Italy, and there are 137,000 cases with 14,000 deaths. Now, Italy, the great news about Italy is they are kind of just stabilizing now, and they're already thinking about what's the next phase, what's the next steps we're going to do. So that's a really, really good sign. They're at 133,000 cases with 16,500 deaths. Germany, we're going to talk about them today. Unbelievably, 103,000 cases, but only 1,800 deaths. France is at 99,000 with over 9,000 deaths, and the UK is at 52,000 cases with 5,400 deaths. And I'm sure some of you have heard their Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is now in the ICU because he has the coronavirus. In Malaysia, where I'm at, it's about 4,000 cases with 62 deaths, which is not too bad. The Philippines is 3,700 cases with 163 deaths, and Indonesia is at 2,700 with 209 deaths. Singapore just got into lockdown, I believe, this week, and they're at 1,400 cases with 6 deaths. It's very interesting, though, because Singapore is starting to grow a little bit with these cases. But the most interesting country is actually Japan. Japan, I believe it was today or yesterday, they just announced that it's a state of emergency, and they're shutting down like 7 prefectures, including Tokyo. So that is a place we need to keep an eye on. It looks like a second wave is hitting there. But I wanted to go, just like yesterday, I focused on Taiwan and how well they did. Today I'm going to focus on another country, and they are super exemplary because it's Germany. And Germany's success right now, they've basically become a template for other countries to learn from. They have super high cases, over 100,000, and yet they're only at 1,800 deaths, or a 1.75% death rate. Right? So when we look at them, they're doing something really, really well. And you'll notice that they had something very, very similar with Taiwan. So let's talk about the history of the situation. January is when, a lot of people are hearing the news about this epidemic just growing in China. And the response from Germany was similar to every other country, even the US at the same time. You didn't really take the threat very seriously. So it's kind of like almost every country was looking at it as a Chinese thing, right? But by February, Germany became the second highest in cases in all of Europe. And by February 26th, what happens? When they found out in February, they took action right away. Of course, it's a little bit later than Taiwan, but they took strong action right away, and they began this real rapid response. So what did they do? Number one is they extended school and daycare closures and made sure it went longer. Anyone who's exposed to someone who has the virus, anyone who's symptomatic, they would self-isolate and quarantine for the next 14 days. They limited people coming into the country, and also they acquired medical equipment to prepare for the future. Another thing that was really good about Germany, and something that they did really well, was they began to ramp up testing efforts. So the one thing interesting about Germany is they don't have any centralized testing system, or it's nothing centralized. So they had private labs, and they were free to develop any type of testing they wanted. And because of these private labs developing their own testing, they began to have lots of different tests come out. And since they developed this testing really well, even just these private labs, so far, they've already tested 1 million people just from the private labs. So they're testing a lot of people. They're isolating the people who have the coronavirus, and they're treating them really well. Now, in March, they get their first death in Germany. And because of their first death, Germany begins to limit gatherings to 1,000 or less. And this is the most important thing that experts are saying about Germany and why Germany is so successful, is their bed-to-person ratio. Their bed-to-person ratio is 2 to 3 times more than Italy or the US. It is 8.1 beds per 1,000 people, and 6.1 ICU beds per 1,000 people. Like I said, is 2 to 3 times more than the US and Italy. Their healthcare system from this coronavirus has not been overwhelmed, and this is why there's not that many deaths. So later, there's even more bigger response when more things happen. March 17th, the health minister sets the health risk to high. And then they added another 1,000 beds for coronavirus patients. And then they put in curfews and quarantines into effect. And experts suggested, these are what the experts are saying, that because even though they started a little bit late, they responded forcefully. You see, the problem in the U.S. was they have bad testing efforts, and that's why they're being overrun. And Italy, on the other side, is basically they have no beds. So they're actually facing the problems that Germany doesn't have. So by March 22nd, it was getting worse and worse, and then they limited the gatherings to 2 with social distancing of 6 feet away from each other. People are told to stay home. And basically what's happening is rapid testing. They're doing rapid testing. They're testing, isolating, tracing, and their health system is good. And even though there's still a lot to go, they are so far ahead of the other countries. You got to think about it. They're like number 4 or 5 in the number of cases, and yet their death ratio is so low at 1.75%. So this is something that a lot of countries can learn from. And I hope that as we learn, just like Taiwan and now Germany, it was quick response and strong response. And I think that's something that we all need to learn from. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this pandemic and my realizations from it in the word section, which brings us to the area we're going to talk about. What? We're going to talk about praise songs. We just heard about some happy news that Germany is doing really well and we can learn from them. And there's these 2 songs that I wanted to play today. And the first one is going to be the second version of I Am Happy, of course, because we're in this history. No matter what is happening, we are happy, truly happy people. And secondly, this song is kind of one of the most epic songs that I've heard. It's called I Have Found My Love. It is so epic, so moving. I think the first 5 times I heard it, I cried, or not cried. Of course, I didn't cry, but I had tears welling up in my eyes. Okay, so I'm going to scratch that first part. I didn't cry, just had tears welling up because it's such an epic song. So let's listen to 2 praise songs. Let's sing together. I Am Happy Too, and I Have Found My Love.
His life, he is happy for sure. Yes, that is right. I know I live the most happy life. Happiness should never fade, it should last eternally. That is joy. Holy Spirit and Son, I'm really happy, right? They agree, yes, you are happy indeed. I hear their words, what they observe. People can say what they want about me. Their thoughts are wrong. They don't know, they don't understand. Although this path may be hard, I will take this glorious path, the path of life. Holy Spirit and Son, I'm really happy, right? They agree, yes, you are happy indeed. Happiness should never fade, it should last eternally. That is joy. Happiness should never fade, it should last eternally. That is joy. Holy Spirit and Son, I'm really happy, right? They agree, yes, you are happy indeed. They agree, yes, you are happy indeed.
Now the time's come, I must go. To a far land I must leave now.
He has gone away, I've waited so long, still he's not back. Drifting o'er mountains and seas, I hear mere rumors of him. I have waited ages, it seems, yet I have seen nothing of him. I will seek him out, I must go. I will seek him out, I must go. I have traveled thousands of miles, asking if anyone has seen him at all. I've asked everyone, but no one has seen him. North and south, east, west, I have searched them all. Breathless, anxiously calling him. Then I was guided somewhere unknown by the Spirit and Son. There he was alone out of sight, where the waves cast him, waves of the times. There he was, I have found him, found my love. I embrace him, tears streaming down my face. Virtuous love and peace shone so bright in his eyes. And he told me, love, all this time I was with you where you went. I have found my love finally, hand in hand we made our way home, reunited till the end. Love never fails, it's eternal. I have found my love finally, hand in hand we made our way home, reunited till the end. Love never fails, it's eternal. Till the end, love never fails, it's
And that is I Have Found My Love, that epic song. And of course, the first one we heard is I Am Happy Too. So we're coming on to the word portion of the day. And there's a lot of things that have been on my mind lately, especially because we're in this coronavirus time. And I want to speak kind of openly and frankly. it's really weird because everyone's in lockdown. People are by themselves more. They have a way more time because there's no travel. You don't have to go out, don't have to get ready. And there's so much more time than we thought there was. And one thing that's very interesting is when you're out meeting people and when you're traveling, there's time to think and there's time, you're just busy doing stuff. But when you're home all day, it's basically just you and yourself. And we kind of look and see like the mistakes we make or the character that we have, and a lot of stuff comes out at this time because for a lot of people it is kind of a dark and like difficult time because jobs are scarce and people are losing their jobs and all of the different things are happening. And it's really easy for people to kind of lose their way and lose like that fiery faith that they once have. Like some people are like do really, really well alone. And for people like myself, I'm someone who thrives in like group situations. And I noticed even for myself when I get to the point where I'm doing things alone now, I can see the areas in my character and the areas of my life that I see that I kind of cut corners or that I don't do it as good as I do when I'm in a group setting. And that's something that I was kind of looking at. I was like, wow, I was like, this is actually, it is truly the time that was talked about in the message when God told us that this is your time, your individual time to grow. And this is your individual time to really make yourself. Things are just starting, like realistically, because even in Malaysia, May 18th was the first day. It's been 2 weeks and now we're going on to the third week. It hasn't even been that long, but it feels like forever because we have so much time each and every day, and we really have to utilize this time well and pray and realize even more deeply about the situation that we're going through. And I realized something as I study about the coronavirus and I give you guys these updates and what's happening in Germany and Taiwan. And especially when it came to Germany and Taiwan, there are two countries that did really well, and they're kind of example countries. Like Korea is another country too. They are doing really, really well. Like Taiwan is like 400 people with what? Like 6 or 9 deaths? It's so small. Germany is at 100,000 cases, and yet they're at 1,800 deaths, which sounds like a lot, but the percentage is so low. And the biggest thing I realized, it was about people in the beginning, they didn't value or understand the gravity of what was happening. So it's like, China, oh, it's China's problem. It's China's disease. It's China's virus, right? Oh, it came from China. And it's really weird because it was in January, I believe it was January, the first case in America was. It was such a small thing, to be honest, because it's one case out of like 350 million people. It was totally like not a big deal. Germany, not a big deal. Italy, France, not a big deal. And I was in Singapore and I was in like Malaysia, and most of the countries kind of looked at it as not a big deal. And because they didn't see it as the seriousness of the situation, they didn't know, they didn't have enough information. The interesting thing was, because of that, the response wasn't quick. And the one thing we keep hearing is the response wasn't quick enough. It was too late. It was too late. It was too late. And what it reminded me of is how many times Sunseam talks about you have to respond quickly. You have to respond. You can't just, respond like 10 minutes later. You got to respond on the spot right away, even if you might not even understand it. But because it's the Lord or if it's God speaking, you just got to say amen and you got to do it. Right? And in the message, Sunseam's like, people who are slow will miss it. And then they'll regret. And we're like, oh, okay. But we've never had like a big enough example to see how much you suffer because you didn't respond on time. You didn't respond quickly. But now right in front of us, we have one of the biggest and like greatest examples where God is saying these people have to turn to God. The leaders have to turn to God. And as much as they don't respond, as much as they don't believe, and they're not responding to the call of God, it's getting worse and worse in these countries. And you see that just from a late response of 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, we're talking thousands of lives. We can actually see what happens when you don't respond quickly. And I looked at it and I was realizing through the word is, it's hard for us to take action. It's hard for us to respond if we don't really believe the gravity or the seriousness of what is happening. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to us listening to the word, where, the message comes out and God says something and we just don't understand how big of what God is saying. But you got to think about this. It's God saying it, right? It's not a small thing. It's actually God saying it. And it's hard for us to grasp, and that's why the response becomes very slow. That, wait, if God is saying this, no matter how weird this sounds, shouldn't I listen to it? Should I do what he says? And that's why when I was listening to like the Tuesday pre-dawn message, it's like, you have to realize that God is speaking to you. You have, it's a sin if you don't pray. It's a sin if you don't give thanks. It's a sin if you don't have joy. Can you imagine that? It's a sin if you can't rejoice? It all comes down to, do you realize and understand the gravity of what is being said to us each and every day? Are we focused? Are we listening to exactly what he says? There's so many times where, later something's like, I told you. Like one of the biggest examples we talked about recently was that car accident in Korea. And there's a foreign member that, that we saw the picture of the car going off the bridge. It was crazy. And he's like, I told it was God speaking. God said, don't go home, but stay at the hotel with the members. And we see that, we saw it on a small scale, but now we're seeing it at a great and large scale, and we see what the result actually is. A quick response. If the world responded quickly and saw what was happening, then they would have dealt with this virus much better. There'd be less catastrophe and death. But because of a slow response, we see many countries in a bad state. We see more deaths, and we see like the healthcare system that's run down. It's basically a global crisis, not only just on a human level, like the human cost of lives dying, but it's like a global recession. Like literally countries are shutting down. And we see how important and how great it is that we respond quickly to what God is saying. It is something that I think that we can realize even more is we really, really need to respond quickly to God's words. And now we can see that if it's a slow response, there is a consequence that we may not even see. But to be honest, wouldn't it be better to respond quickly and say, oh, look, it was no bigger than a flu, rather than not respond and see it go this way? Like the good thing we have now is, like, even though it's a slow response, at least we start to do social distancing and slowing things down, so it's not anywhere as crazy as it's supposed to be. But I do think it's something that we have to realize more and more when we hear these words each and every day, every proverb, every word that the Lord says to us. We have to just take it in and say, this is what God is saying, and we need to respond quickly to it. It's like, it was a message as was last week's message. On Sunday, it was God proclaimed the importance of God's will, and you need to pray and find it. And then the next, was it the Tuesday morning service or was it the Wednesday where the message came out and said, God has been searching your hearts since Sunday to see if you were really searching for God's will. And I really believe right now at this time too, ever since the word was proclaimed 2 days ago or 3 days ago on Sunday, when he said, give thanks, God is now searching everyone's heart to see how much we gave thanks to God and remembered all the difficulties or the times we almost died. And that brings us to this next section that I want to kind of talk about. This section is a testimony time of Thanksgiving, and I know that not a lot, but there's people that are actually sending in their testimonies, and I wanted to give a testimony today from Karian, and she is from Malaysia. Okay, and I know her pretty well, and she's just like her church is like across the street from this church here. But this is a testimony that she sent in, and she's very extremely thankful for this situation. So let's listen to this testimony. So there's this one instance that I remember the most. You know, back then when I was trying to catch a bus at Sunway Pyramid, at that time, by the way, some of you don't know, Sunway Pyramid is like a big shopping mall here in Malaysia. And she said at that time she was standing at the entrance to this shopping mall. Then she saw the bus, was almost reaching the bus stop. So without even thinking twice, she just ran across the road, and she didn't even look at the cars that were coming. And right when she was about to reach the bus stop, a car was driving towards her really fast. And she could have died from this accident. But this car, like, just managed to stop in time. And it was so close that the front bumper lightly touched her leg. So, you know, I was just really inspired by this, because how close was it? It was to the point the front bumper just lightly touched her leg. And Karianne, thank you for the wonderful testimony. And she said, it was like, oh, she was so thankful for this one thing that she remembers that God opened her heart to. So I hope that you too were also inspired by that also. That brings us to the song of choice for the day. And today's song is a favorite. Well, I have so many favorite songs, but it's a great song. This singer, her name is Tracy Chapman, and the song is Fast Car. And I know the original. I was born when it debuted. I was living when it debuted. And Tracy Chapman, those of you who don't know her, amazing storyteller. Amazing storyteller. And this song is not going to be the original, but it's going to be, it's a cover by two people. It's Boyce Avenue. You've heard them before. They sang I Want It That Way like a couple weeks ago. And it's featuring Kina Grannis. And this is an acoustic cover of Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. Listen to the lyrics. It's really, it's a great story. Like, if anything else, it's a story that's being told. It's not like some of the music we hear today. Really inspiring, and it's about people who want to get away to live a better life. So let's listen to Fast Car from Tracy Chapman, covered by Boyce Avenue featuring Kina Grannis.
Fast car, I want a ticket to anywhere. Maybe we can make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero, got nothing to lose, and maybe we'll make something. And me, myself, I got nothing to prove.
You got a fast car, I got a plan to get us out of here. Been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money. You won't have to drive too far. Just cross the border and into the city. You and I can both get jobs. Finally see what it means to be living.
See, my old man's got a problem. Live with a bottle, that's the way it is. He says his body's too old for working. His body's too young to look like his. My mom went off and left him. She wanted more from life than he could give. I said somebody's got to take care of him. So I quit school and that's what I did.
You got a fast car. Is it fast enough that we could fly away? We gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way.
So I remember we were driving in your car. Just Speed so fast, felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. And I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
You got a fast car. We go cruising, entertain ourselves. Still ain't got a job. I work at the market as a checkout girl. I know things will get better. You'll find work and I'll get promoted. We'll move out of the shelter, buy a bigger house and live in the suburbs.
So I remember we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. And I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You got a fast car, I got a job that pays all our bills. You stay out drinking late at the bar, see more of your friends than you do of your kids. I'd always hope for better, thought maybe together you and me fighting. I got no plans, I ain't going nowhere, so take your fast car and keep on driving. So I remember we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. And I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so you can fly away? You gotta make a decision. Leave tonight, live and die this way.
And that was Fast Car, originally from Tracy Chapman, and this is a cover from Boyce Avenue featuring Kina Grannis. I hope you guys enjoyed it, the acoustic version, the cover of this. And that brings us to near the end of today's podcast. And I wanted to give just a funny story, okay? And this is a funny story that I can only look back on and say it was funny. But at the moment, I was terrified, and it was a hard situation. So what happened was I was pioneering in this new country, right? And when I was pioneering this country, there's a newcomer there learning the word really, really well. And it was crazy. This person is super awesome, amazing, and the sacrifice she made was basically she broke up with her fiance. Like, she was inspired to do this, and I was there when it happened, and I was at that time, I'm like 27, 28 years old, and I'm sitting there like, whoa, like, what do I do? And obviously you're really shattered by the situation, and she was crying all the time, and with guys, we have no idea what to do when girls start to cry, and we're just kind of like, what do I do? Like, do I get a tissue, or do I start crying with her, or it's like, what do you do? And I'm here, I'm this young leader who's like pioneering a new church, and I just sat there like, what should I do? I would spend like 3-4 hours teaching a Bible study because like two of the hours was crying. So I'm just like, wow, like I have no idea what I should do. I'm just kind of like waiting for her to stop crying, and I'm like, should I start again? Right? So we finished Bible study, and we're in the subway, and she's just shattered still by it. And she's sitting there, head down, so quiet. And I sat there like, I gotta say something. I really do. Like, I gotta cheer her up, or I gotta make conversation. And it's like, come on, Sky, you can do this. Just do it. So I was like, okay, I should talk to her. So I go, hey, and she puts her head up, and she looks at me. I'm like, hey, and she's like, hi, and I'm like, and I honestly blanked out. I had no idea what to say. So in this moment, I looked at her and I said, so do you like sports? She looks at me, says no, and she puts her head back down. And that was the end of the conversation. So, yes, that was me several years back, well, more than a decade ago. That's like 15 years ago. But I just wanted to share that with you, knowing that, as in life is a process, and as we grow to become better and better leaders, we go through different things. And I hope that all of us too, as we go through these small mistakes more and more, we can learn from it, grow from it, and this is what makes us the leaders and the people we are today. So this brings us to the end of today's show. It's the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, April 8th. I hope you guys had a wonderful time just as I did, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Free and beautiful, to make this life